Welcome to my Claim Your Worthiness podcast, intimate conversations with Gail Jones. We all have a safe place within to create anew. In each episode, I hope to add to your inner sanctuary to strengthen the belief in yourself and your dreams. Claiming our worthiness sets the foundation for centering us back into our greatness. From this foundation, we create our most amazing lives. I'll be sharing insights and resources from my own journey and from others who are transforming their lives. Lean in and receive the wisdom shared. You are worthy of having this special time with yourself. Hello, I'm Gail Kernan Jones, here today with my guest, Shay Merritt Hughes, who is owner of Merritt Clinical Wellness in Apex, North Carolina. That's Merritt, M-E-R-R-I-T-T, clinicalwellness.com. I'm actually thrilled for Shay to be here for a very special reason today. She's going to share with us a very courageous story. It's probably the most courageous interview I've done so far. And she's doing it because she really wants to help the world at this time. Many of us have heard a lot about how the pandemic has impacted us personally and professionally. But there are some that believe that we're going to have a new pandemic of mental health challenges. Shay really wants to help make an impact on other people's lives, so she's going to share a pretty gutsy story with us today. But before we get into that story, I just want to tell you a little bit about her business because it's unique as well as her story. So Merritt Clinical Wellness is an evidence-based rehabilitation and injury prevention practice. Its focus is on the soft tissue realignment of the body through the pelvis. She believes by bringing oneself back into alignment, can we not only reduce pain, but move more freely and balanced. She's known as a realignment therapist. She's helped many who have been injured or recovering from surgery get back in shape, even after others told them it couldn't be done. She says she was born to do this work by uniquely combining therapeutic massage with body work. She trained with renowned body worker Thomas Myers, author of Anatomy Trains. He's also produced over 20 online courses and teaches throughout the world his structural integration processes. She lives on a farm in North Carolina, is a newlywed with her very understanding husband, 3 horses, a donkey, and 4 kittens. She recently started a nonprofit, the Purrs A Lot Society, for rescuing, rehabbing, and then rehoming kittens. And that's Purrs, P-U-R-R-S, A-L-O-T Society, which is a Facebook page. So Shay, first of all, I want to thank you for your enormous courage in coming forth to share your story of your attempted suicide in your 20s and the inspiring ways you've reclaimed your worthiness to live in profound ways. Now at age 42, you have much wisdom and perspective from that journey. And before we hear all those gems, can you please bring us back to that desperate day when you tried to take your life?
Thank you for having me. I was 26 years old when that happened. It was shortly after New Year's. I was in a very dark place, and it took years to get there. Abusive childhood, inactive parents that were just not involved with me like they should have been. And these are all the things that you see at 42, right? That you don't see at 26. It's easier to look back on things from a different perspective. Things had just hit an all-time low for me. I was in a very dark place. I was exhausted mentally, and I wanted to go home. I remember saying that in therapy many times, and what I meant by that was I wanted to go to heaven. I was tired. I was done with this world. I was done with this life, and I was ready to move on from it. Actually, that day is what helped to start something really good for me in life. Mm-hmm. But I had to have that day in order for the good to come later.
What was it about that specific day?
So I had a terrible fight with the person I was in a relationship with at the time, very volatile relationship. And I was there, and I was away from home. I was in a different state where I didn't know a lot of people. Even though I'd been there for 5 years, I didn't have a secure friendship. When you add all these things together, and it affects your mental health in such a way that you really feel like you're in a bottle and you can't get out. Mm-hmm. And so what happens when somebody closes off that bottle? Whatever's in that bottle is going to die because there's no oxygen in a bottle. Right. So very similar comparison to that is you just feel like somebody is cranking down the lid of that bottle to where you just can't. That's a very similar way to where I felt that day, if I can give you a comparison of what that feels like.
It sounds terrifying. And you mentioned not feeling wanted by your parents. And can you tell a little bit about your childhood and how that impacted your mindset that got you to the point, 26. I know the fight with your boyfriend exasperated things, but you said it goes back a long way. So if you just give us a sense of that.
Yeah, it began at a very early age. I had a mother who made sure I felt very unwanted. And when I was 8 years old, she remarried my stepfather, who was very mentally and physically abusive to not only her, but to me. Mm-hmm. So you grow up, I always wondered why my biological father never came and rescued me. I always wondered why my mother didn't love me. And it was just because they didn't. And when you're little and you don't understand those things. You don't understand that you just had crappy parents. That's not something that a 16-year-old understands. Or even at the age of 26 that I understood. It took me becoming the same ages that my mother was when some of the abusive behavior was going on, for me to push back and say, this was absolutely wrong. And becoming a godmother myself, there's no way in this world that I would let my goddaughter experience the things I experienced without dropping what I'm doing, leaving this podcast right now, and I'm going to get her. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to put a stop to it immediately.
Sure.
And why my parents didn't do that for me is something they'll have to answer to when they have that conversation with God. I won't be part of that conversation because I've had my own conversations with God, many since then and through my healing process. But that'll be something that, even though neither one of them have ever sat down and answered those questions for me, they just flat refuse, which was another part of my healing for me. You have to accept that your abuser is not always going to own what they did and say, I was wrong and I could have done better. My parents have never once did that for me. The most that my mother will admit to is that she made mistakes, but she won't go past that. And I finally threw my hands up at a certain point, and I'm like, you know what? I'm done trying to get the answers out of you. Sure. I don't need you in my life or anything. I have a very fulfilled life without.
I just want to go back to one point because it's really key to my Worthiness platform and what I hope everybody learns when they're parenting young children, especially, that worthiness is formed by being seen, heard, validated, and acknowledged. It's based on who we are, not what we do. And when you talked about not feeling wanted, did your mother have to get married? So was she pregnant with you?
Yes. So she did that twice. She did it with me and with my little brother. So both marriages that she was in, she got pregnant in order to have those men.
When you don't feel wanted at that very early stage, that subconsciously we can form a belief that we're not wanted that carries us throughout life. So when you get triggered by a major event like 26 and a bad fight with your boyfriend, I know it's cumulative, but that underlying belief can really come forward in life if we don't heal the belief and learn to reparent ourselves and teach ourselves that we are wanted, even if we didn't get it from our core family.
Oh, yes. I think it's important every day if you have a child in your life or a friend in your life. I pick up on it very instinctively because I didn't have it, but I make it a point to tell my friends, my family, my kittens that they are safe, that they are wanted, and that they are loved. Because those three things culminate to I matter in this world. And I didn't have that growing up. I had one shining spark in my life, which was my grandfather. But a 9-year-old doesn't talk about the abuse to their grandfather that they're experiencing at home because you don't know you're supposed to.
Right.
A 16-year-old doesn't. He passed away when I was 16 years old. So you don't have those coping mechanisms to reach out to someone and say, hey, I need help. So I think what we can do as people, as friends, as neighbors, as whatever, is you can make it a point to see if someone is struggling because they're not always going to tell you. And what does it hurt me to be kind, to tell you? It's, hey, I care about you. And if you're having a bad day and you just need to pick up the phone and call me, you're welcome to do that. I will take the time to acknowledge you as a person and let you know that you're valuable, that you are safe, you are wanted, and you are loved.
I love that you just added the safety piece. That's really key. And people know if they feel safe or not. And that's a building of trust as well. But thank you for adding that. So how did your suicide attempt transform your life?
It wasn't just this magical thing that happens. You take a bunch of pills and you end up in the hospital and you're sick for days. This is you have to work at it. It took about a year to, I would say, get over the actual incident itself and to forgive myself. I survived for a reason. And that reason was God wasn't done with me yet. I had more work to do. And I'd say 2 years after that, I left from Texas and moved back to North Carolina and completely started over. I was 30. I had to move in with a friend of mine, but I went to school. And one thing led to another. I ended up in school for massage. And then shortly after becoming a massage therapist, and 6 months in, I got my first 2 clients that I really wanted to help. And it hadn't turned on yet that I was really good at this. I just got my first 2 people that I really wanted to help. And I have both of them to this day. I've been in my practice for many years now. But I wanted to help these people. So I started doing some research, and I found Tom Myers on YouTube by accident. And that later on I ended up training with him and bringing that back home.
Can you just give us a little background on Thomas, why his work is so different?
I call him Yoda. So yeah. I've only trained with him personally a couple of times now. I've trained with his trainers as well. I've taken tons of his online classes and read his books and whatnot. And he is just innately good at this.
What do you mean by this? What's the difference between what he does and a typical massage therapist or a body worker?
He has the ability to not only do it and to structurally put you back where you go in simpleton's terms, but he has the ability to teach it. And he has the ability to inspire you to do it. And he'll flat tell you out if you are good at it or if you are not. And
it sounds like there's a huge intuitive piece to this.
Yeah, he is. And he's by far not the only person that has inspired my career, but
right.
he was that first one. For sure. He's the same person to me that he is to many other people in this career that have been around him. And he works really hard at sharing what he's good at doing and then teaching you to do it.
Right.
And teaching you to do your own thing.
I like how you took the extra step. You wanted to help your clients beyond what you learned in traditional massage therapy and did this Google research and ended up rebranding your whole business and finding your calling. It's like a divine intervention when you went that extra step on Google, huh?
For me, and I've said this often in my career, I think because it fast-tracked for me so quickly that I didn't have the opportunity to get trained incorrectly. Because I went right into my postgraduate education at that point, and I was hooked. When I found out who he was and the books he had written, I was hooked. So I didn't end up doing signature services or someone dictating to me what I needed to do because this made them money. I was able to do what my clients needed and therefore built the practice that I have today. So at this point, we're about 7.5 years in.
Excellent. And I remember in a previous conversation, you had said to me when I asked you about working with the injured, and you said, yes, everybody's been injured. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, yes. I commonly, something I like to say is because I'm an equestrian, we go on these things where people want to believe that a horse or a human is 100% sound. And I hate that terminology. I'm like, if you've walked in your life longer than 6 months, you've got a hitch in your giddy up. You just can't get away from that. I've been able to take a person and you work with that person and I can see when you're walking towards me, whether or not you're in proper alignment or you're not. 90% of the time you're not. There's something that I can correct. And when I can correct those things and rebalance them, you walk better, you feel better. So you need to forget about things being 100% sound and think about things being functional. Are they functional at a point that you're happy and you're enjoying your life? Because that's your goal. There is no more 100%. I guess if you're a 6-month-old baby, might be 100% for a minute.
Yes. Excellent. So I just want to go back again to your mission on educating people about suicide and again, your brave story today. What advice do you have for others that are in a dark place contemplating suicide or even people now that are in despair in this world?
The most important thing I can tell anyone that's in that spot is talk to someone. I can assure you there's someone in your community, in your church. It doesn't have to be somebody that you know, but talk to somebody. Engage with somebody like me who, even though I'm very new to sharing my story, I'm very willing to help somebody not go down that road that leads to that.
How important is it when you speak to somebody that they're not related to you?
It creates a safe place. One of the best things I ever did was actually go to therapy myself. And what people think, they think that therapy is expensive or they can't afford it. Most times if you go, because a lot of my story is through my faith, but if you even go to like your local churches, there's programs and vouchers that will help you get into a therapist for free. It might only be a couple of sessions, but it will get you started and it will get you down that path of talking to someone about those things and engaging in those resources that can absolutely be a saving grace to someone that is in a dark space and somebody needs to turn the light on.
Okay. And you talked a little bit in a previous conversation with me about deserving to be heard.
Yeah. If anybody out there right now needs to hear that, I'm happy to share this with you, that you're absolutely worth it and make an effort to find that light. Stop what you're doing, talk to somebody. You're worth it. You're worth saving. You're worth surviving. And you can't thrive if you don't survive. One foot in front of the other, one day at a time, and just keep working at it. But if you quit, you'll never get there.
I love that. Can you repeat that again? That's really
oh goodness,
great.
Which one?
Yeah, inspiring. The two sentences about surviving and thriving.
Right. So we survive every day, but you can't thrive without surviving.
Right.
In order to thrive, you must survive.
Right.
And one day at a time, and one step at a time, and sometimes one conversation at a time.
No matter what is happening in our world now, know this: you are not your circumstances. Learn how to claim your internal power to thrive in Gail's 6-session coaching package, Creating a New Mindset for Thriving. Discover your hidden beliefs that hold you back. Learn empowering words and feelings that shift your mindset to create anew. Release financial setbacks and other blocks to abundance. Step into a new vision for your life with clearly defined action steps to support it. Be championed and mentored, which is a key to success. Email her at gailjones@claimyourworthiness.com to set up a complimentary 30-minute session to learn more. Gail trained with world-renowned neuroscientists to help you learn to train your brain for optimal outcomes. Check out her website, claimyourworthiness.com, especially her video on the homepage, to catch a glimpse of her expertise.
You allow yourself to understand that you are worth this, that you are worth investing the time. We invest so much energy into so many things. Invest the time in yourself to help yourself. If my story tells anybody anything, it's slow down and invest the time in yourself to get healthy, to get mentally healthy, and focus on joy, because we forget that a lot. We're so focused on, I don't have these things. Well, focus on the joy of the day. I rode up here this morning and, my great big truck with the windows down and the music blaring, because it's a beautiful day outside. You go outside, take a walk, just enjoy today. And that can lead into tomorrow. And that leads into next week, and so on and so forth. But if you don't make it through today, you'll never get down that path.
I think you said something about don't quit, you're not finished.
God's not finished with you yet. If you're on this planet right now, it's because God's not finished with you yet. And whatever your faith is, and whatever it is that you need to believe, that is important to you. I know it's important to me. And sometimes it's important to just have a conversation with your maker that's just in between you and your maker, and getting through the day. But don't ever feel like someone's not listening, because the universe listens every day.
I just want to share this quote you shared with me before this interview, because it's so profound. And this is yours. You don't quit when it gets hard. You can step back, you can regroup and think about it, but you have to finish it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to finish it.
And finish it to me means the biggest things I'll do in my life is help others always.
Absolutely. I get up every day and I set goals for myself. And one of my goals every day is to help.
It's beautiful.
Is to help someone. And with my career, I get to do that every day, multiple times, and I appreciate it. But I want to learn something, and I want to help someone, and I want to be kind every day.
It's beautiful.
That's my little 3 criteria.
Help, learn, and be kind. That's beautiful.
Every day.
And I know also you shared a story with me about a woman who became somewhat of your own godmother.
Oh, yes.
And that was like another divine intervention to help get you back on track and build finances to build your business. And you said something that you hope to become half of what she was and help at least half the people she has.
Absolutely. I became a godmother myself a couple of years ago, and if I can just have half the impact on that young person that my godmother has on me, I will have done a good job. Especially as I met this amazing lady in my 30s, actually. She was willing to let me learn from her, and she taught me a lot of things that I didn't have a full grasp on. And she is absolutely the corner figure for why I have the success that I do today.
It's beautiful.
I talk to her almost every day. I think of her every day, but she is absolutely that cornerstone that set that catalyst for my success, because she invested the time in me. She didn't have to. I have to invest time in me, but she did.
So what do you think inspired her to do that?
I think she is just truly one of those angels put here on earth that God lets us borrow for a little while. She is just an inspirational lady, hardworking lady, came from nothing to something, and is willing to notice someone that she wants to help, and she's going to do that. Same thing happened with my goddaughter, with me. I met this amazing young lady, and I'm like, hey, I want to be part of her life because I care about her. I get it now that I'm sitting here today of how that happens. But at the time it was happening to me, I absolutely didn't understand this woman's interest in me.
It sounds like an underlying theme of your message is that you can't do it alone. You got to reach out. You got to get help. You got to be open to people mentoring you and the divine interventions that come, like when you did the Google search and found somebody who helped elevate your business, and then you were open to this new godmother. So you didn't do it alone.
I think the important thing is to understand that you don't have to do it alone, that there's nothing out there that says you have to be alone for the rest of your life and that you have to relive your past every day of your life. You don't. Today is a new day, and even if you make the smallest step today of talking to someone, then that is step one. And whatever step 2 is, allow someone to help you with that if you need to. Stop thinking that you have to do everything alone. That's just not the way it is.
So your story is so inspiring. So tell us a little bit about your life now on the farm, newlywed.
I have an amazing husband who is kind enough to tolerate all my activities and my animals and genuinely seems to love them too. I got up at 5:30 just so I could be here on time today because I have a lot to get done during the day. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I wake up on any given day and I have 4 little kittens running around, and I have my horses, and we have this farm, and I'm really blessed today. So every day that I get up and enjoy those things are important to me, and I have those today because I didn't quit 16 years ago. I got to reset and keep going.
Great. Are there any closing words you have on happiness or worthiness?
You're worth the time. You're worth the effort. You are worth someone caring about you and loving you. And there's going to be a time when we're all walking on that beach at sunset, and that's our last sunset. And we're going somewhere past that to a new journey. And just make sure when you're walking down that beach that you mattered.
Really beautiful. Thank you so much. Again, will you just share the name of your Facebook page for your nonprofit for the animals?
Oh, yes. It's
for the kittens.
Very new. The Purrs-a-Lot Society. We're on Facebook right now. We're very new, and we're stretching our legs and getting our stuff together, but we hope to accomplish great things in 2022 to help rescue, rehab, and rehome kittens.
Excellent. And I just want to share your website with everybody again who's interested in doing clinical massage, and it's Merit, MERRITT, clinical, CLINICAL, wellness, WELLNESS.com, meritclinicalwellness.com.
That's me.
Thank you so much, Shay. I really am grateful for your courage and your very inspirational story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on our journey today. I am so grateful you are part of my podcast community, where it is my dream that by claiming our worthiness together, we can more impactfully shed our light and love on this world. In future podcasts, I'll be sharing more stories of hope and unlimited possibilities for creating anew. You can also follow me on Instagram or on my Facebook page. I also hope you'll be inspired to share my podcast with your friends. Together, we are stronger. Blessings, Gail.
Instagram and Facebook at Coach Gail Jones.